The glass shattered 3 tables away from me, and I didn't flinch. I should have. Normal people flinched when crystal exploded against marble, when voices rose to shouting, when the temperature in Salvatore's dropped 20 degrees in the span of a breath. But I'd been working doubles for 6 weeks straight. My feet ached like they were walking on broken bones, and I'd stopped having the energy for fear somewhere around Tuesday. So I kept wiping down table 7, my rag moving in slow circles over the white linen, and I didn't look up. "You think you can speak to me that way?" The voice that cut through the restaurant was smooth as aged whiskey and twice as dangerous, deep, controlled. The kind of voice that didn't need volume to command a room. I glanced up then. Couldn't help it. The man standing near the bar wore a suit that probably cost more than my car. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, the kind of expensive that whispered rather than shouted. Dark hair swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from something harder than marble, all sharp angles and unforgiving lines. His eyes were the color of smoke before a fire, gray and restless and utterly cold. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the man who'd thrown the glass, a stocky guy with sweat beading on his upper lip despite the air conditioning. "Mr. Catalano, I swear, I didn't—" "You didn't what?" The dark-haired man Catalano took a step forward. "Just one." The stocky man stumbled back like he'd been shoved. "Didn't think I'd find out? Didn't think it mattered?" The restaurant had gone silent. 40-some diners, all frozen mid-bite, mid-sip, mid-conversation. Even the kitchen sounds had died. In the corner, I saw Marissa, the hostess, slowly backing toward the door. Smart girl. I should have done the same. Instead, I found myself watching Catalano's hands. They hung loose at his sides, relaxed. But there was something about the set of his shoulders that made my pulse quicken, like a wolf deciding whether to bite or wait. "Please." The stocky man's voice cracked. "Give me another chance. I can fix this. You had your chance." Catalano's tone didn't change. Didn't rise. Didn't sharpen. That was what made it terrifying. "You had several." The stocky man lunged. It happened fast. A desperate grab for Catalano's jacket. A wild swing that came nowhere close to landing. Catalano moved like water, smooth and inevitable, catching the man's wrist and twisting. The crack echoed through the silent restaurant. The man screamed. I set down my rag. My hands were steady. That surprised me. 2 men in dark suits materialized from somewhere near the kitchen. I hadn't even seen them standing there and grabbed the stocky man by the arms. He was sobbing now, cradling his broken wrist, begging in a stream of Italian and English that blurred together. Catalano straightened his cuffs. "Take him out back." "No, please, Cristo, please." They dragged him toward the kitchen. His shoes squeaked against the polished floor. The sound made my teeth ache. I should have looked away, should have gone back to wiping tables, pretending I hadn't seen anything, playing the role of invisible service worker that kept people like me safe in situations like this. But I'd been working too many hours, sleeping too little, and something in me had worn too thin. "Are you going to kill him?" The words came out before I could stop them, clear, steady, loud enough to carry across the silent restaurant. The room somehow got quieter. Catalano's head turned. Slowly, those smoke-gray eyes found me across the space, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. He studied me with the intensity of someone examining a puzzle. Not hostile. Exactly, but utterly focused. Taking in my stained apron, my pulled-back hair, my defiant chin. The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. Then he smiled. It wasn't a kind smile, but it wasn't cruel either. It was something else. Entirely something that made my stomach flip and my skin prickle with awareness. "Does it matter?" he asked. "Yes." I don't know why I said it. Don't know why I didn't just shut up and disappear into the kitchen like everyone with sense. "It matters if you're going to do it here. Blood's hard to get out of grout." Someone gasped. I think it was Marissa. Catalano's smile widened, just slightly. He started walking toward me, his stride unhurried, and every instinct I had screamed at me to run. I stayed. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and woody with an edge of citrus. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Up close, he was devastating. Not handsome in any soft way, but compelling in the way a storm was compelling. Dangerous and magnetic and impossible to look away from. "What's your name?" His voice was quieter now. Meant only for me. "Elena." My throat was dry. "Elena Rossi. Elena." He said it like he was tasting it. You're not afraid. I'm terrified. It was the truth. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. But I'm also really tired, and I can't afford to lose this job because someone bleeds out on the floor during my shift. His eyes flickered with something that might have been amusement, or respect, or calculation. You're brave, he said softly. I like that. He reached out, and I felt every muscle in my body tense. But he didn't touch me. His fingers brushed the edge of my apron, where my name tag should have been but had fallen off weeks ago. Salvatore's is closed for the evening, he announced, his voice carrying across the restaurant without ever rising. Everyone out, except... His eyes locked on mine again. Except you, Elena Rossi. The room erupted into motion, chairs scraping, bills being thrown on tables, the stampede of people who knew better than to argue. And I stood there, frozen, as the restaurant emptied around me. Catalano smiled again. We need to talk. I'd made exactly $4,362 in tips since I'd started at Salvatore's. I knew because I'd counted every dollar, every crumpled bill, every handful of quarters that barely covered my student loans and rent, and the mounting cost of keeping my mother in the assisted living facility where she didn't remember my name half the time. I thought about that number as I watched the last customer hurry out the door, as the two men in suits locked it behind them. As Catalano gestured toward a booth in the corner like we were about to have a pleasant conversation. I really can't lose this job, I said. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. Sit. It wasn't a request. I sat. He slid into the booth across from me, and somehow the space felt smaller. He took up room in a way that had nothing to do with physical size. It was presence, authority, the weight of being someone who gave orders and expected them to be followed. I folded, my hands on the table, tried to ignore the way my pulse jumped every time his eyes met mine. You know who I am, he said. Not a question. Catalano. I'd heard the name whispered in the kitchen, seen the way the manager went pale whenever a reservation came through with that surname. That's all I know. Cristo Catalano. He leaned back, one arm stretched along the booth's edge, relaxed. Or appearing relaxed, I had the sense that he was always calculating, always 2 moves ahead. And you've just witnessed me threaten a man who owed me money. He owed you money? Among other things. His fingers drummed once against the leather. He was skimming from one of my establishments. Thought I wouldn't notice. And the broken wrist? A gentle reminder. I stared at him. Gentle. Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, maybe, or appreciation for the sarcasm. I could have done worse. That was the problem. I believed him. Silence settled between us. In the kitchen, I could hear muffled voices, the clatter of someone cleaning up. Through the window, the Boston street outside was slick with rain, headlights reflecting off wet pavement. Why am I still here? I asked finally. Because you interest me. He said it simply, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Most people in that room were terrified. You were irritated. I told you. I was worried about the floor. That wasn't it. He leaned forward suddenly, and I fought the urge to lean back. You were angry. At him, for making a scene. At me, for threatening him where you'd have to deal with the aftermath. You weren't thinking about your safety. You were thinking about the inconvenience. Heat crept up my neck. So that kind of courage is rare. His eyes held mine. Or that kind of stupidity. I haven't decided which. Is there a point to this conversation? The words came out sharper than I intended. Because I have tables to finish cleaning and I'm offering you a job. That stopped me cold. Catalano smiled, reading my shock. Not here. With me. With you. I repeated it slowly, trying to make sense of the words. Doing what? I host events, business dinners, private gatherings. I need someone who can manage them, coordinate with the catering, handle the guests, make sure everything runs smoothly. He paused. Someone who won't fall apart when things get complicated. Complicated. I operate in a complicated world, Elena. That was putting it mildly. I'd lived in Boston long enough to know what the Catalano name meant. Organized crime, money laundering, protection rackets. The kind of family that appeared in newspaper articles with words like alleged and under investigation. I can't. The refusal was automatic. Safe. Thank you, but I have a job. Salvatore's pays you $8 an hour plus tips. He named my wage without hesitation, and my stomach sank. You work 6 days a week, sometimes doubles, and you're still behind on your mother's braid. Care facility bills. My blood went cold. How do you... I make it my business to know things. His tone remained even, factual. Your mother has early onset Alzheimer's. She's at Riverside Memory Care in Cambridge. You visit her every Sunday afternoon, even though she doesn't always recognize you. I stood up so fast the booth's edge caught my hip. You had me investigated? I investigate everyone who draws my attention. He didn't stand, didn't look concerned by my anger. Sit down, Elena. No. Sit down. The command in his voice was absolute, and to my horror, my knees started to bend. I locked them, forced myself to stay standing. You don't get to 20,000 a month, he said. The number hit me like cold water. I sank back into the booth, slowly. Catalano's expression didn't change. 20,000 a month, under the table. Health insurance included better coverage than you've ever had. And I'll cover your mother's facility costs directly. All of them. My mind raced, trying to calculate, to make sense of numbers that seemed impossible. $20,000. Every month. I currently made less than that in a year. Why? My voice came out hoarse. Why would you offer me that? Because I need someone I can trust in my home. He leaned forward again, and this time I didn't fight the instinct to mirror him. We were close now. Close enough that I could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the way his pupils dilated slightly when he looked at me. Someone who isn't already in my world, who doesn't have complicated loyalties. Someone you can control. I finished. Someone who will tell me the floor needs cleaning when I break a man's wrist. He smiled, and it was sharp and knowing. I don't want someone I can control, Elena. I want someone brave enough to be honest with me. This is insane. Probably. I don't know anything about your world. You'll learn. What if I say, no? His smile faded. Then you go back, to wiping tables, and I go back to my complicated life, and we never speak again. He paused. But your mother's facility sent you a notice last week. They're raising rates. Again. My hands clenched into fists. He was right. The notice was sitting on my kitchen counter, the numbers making my stomach hurt every time I looked at them. This is blackmail, I said quietly. This is business. He stood, pulling a card from his pocket and sliding it across the table. Heavy cardstock, expensive, just a phone number, no name. You have 24 hours to decide. He walked toward the door, his men falling into step behind him. Mr. Catalano, I called. He paused, looked back. The man from earlier, is he dead? Cristo Catalano's smile was cold and beautiful. Not yet. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone in the empty restaurant, a business card burning a hole in my vision. I picked it up, turned it over in my fingers, and knew I was already lost. I called the number at 2:47 a.m., sitting on my fire escape in the rain. The phone rang twice. Elena. His voice was alert, no trace of sleep, like he'd been waiting. I have conditions, I said. I'm listening. I work for you, but I don't work for your business. I struggled for the right word. Whatever you do that's illegal, I'm not part of it. I organize events, that's all. Silence on the other end. Then, agreed. I need everything in writing. Contract, salary, insurance, all of it legal and documented. Of course. And if I want out, I can leave. No threats. No, Elena. He cut me off gently. If you want to leave, you leave. You have my word. I didn't know if a man like Cristo Catalano's word meant anything, but I was out of options, out of money, and out of time. Okay, I whispered. A car will pick you up tomorrow at noon. Bring whatever you need for a few days. We'll get you properly settled after that. He hung up before I could ask what properly settled meant. I sat in the rain for another hour, watching the city blur through water-streaked windows, and wondered what I'd just agreed to. The car was a black Mercedes with windows so dark I couldn't see inside until the driver opened the door. He was one of the men from the restaurant, tall, built like he spent his life in a gym, with a scar running from his ear to his jaw. Miss Rossi. He gestured to the interior. Mr. Catalano is expecting you. I climbed in with my duffel bag and my racing heart. The drive took 30 minutes, winding out of the city and into the suburbs, then beyond into an area where the houses hid behind gates and stone walls. Old money. The kind of neighborhood where people had swimming pools and tennis courts and staff entrances. We turned onto a private road flanked by maples, their branches forming a canopy overhead. At the end sat a house that made my breath catch. It wasn't a mansion, not in the sprawling, ostentatious way. It was something more refined. Gray stone, 3 stories, with tall windows that caught the afternoon light. Ivy climbed one wall, controlled and elegant. The gardens were geometric, perfectly maintained, with hedges cut into sharp lines. Beautiful, cold, like something from a movie. The car stopped at the front entrance. The driver opened my door. This way. He led me up the stone steps to doors that were easily 10 feet tall, dark wood with iron hardware that looked centuries old. They swung open before we reached them. Christo stood in the entrance hall, and for a moment I forgot how to move. He was in black today, black shirt, black pants, the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual, but there was nothing casual about the way he commanded the space, the way my eyes went to him immediately and stayed. Elena. He smiled, and it was warmer than I expected, almost genuine. Welcome. I stepped inside, and the doors closed behind me with a heavy thud. The entrance hall was all marble and light high ceilings, a chandelier that looked like frozen water, a grand staircase sweeping up to the second floor. Art on the walls, the kind you saw in museums. A table in the center holding a vase of white roses. This is... I struggled for words. It's beautiful. It's home. He moved closer, taking my duffel bag before I could protest. Let me show you around. He led me through rooms that felt like pages from an architecture magazine. A living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. A library with walls of books and leather chairs. A dining room with a table that could seat 20. Everything was immaculate. Everything was expensive. Everything felt like a cage made of glass. Your room is upstairs. He climbed the staircase, and I followed, hyper-aware of the space between us, the faint scent of his cologne, the way his shoulders moved beneath the black shirt. The hallway on the second floor was long, lined with doors. He stopped at one near the end. This is you. The bedroom was larger than my entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated one side, dressed in white linens. French doors opened onto a balcony. There was a sitting area, a desk, an ensuite bathroom. I could glimpse through an open door. Is this? I turned to him. This is just for me? Unless you prefer to share. His tone was dry, teasing in a way that made heat creep up my neck. This is fine, I said quickly. He set my duffel on the bed. There's a closet through there. We'll have it stocked by the end of the week. Clothes for work. Anything else you need. I have clothes. His eyes swept over me, taking in my worn jeans, my faded jacket. Not judging, exactly, but assessing. Not for the kind of events you'll be managing. Right. Events. My actual job. Speaking of which, he continued, we have our first dinner tomorrow night. 8 guests, all business associates. Nothing too complicated, but it'll be a good introduction. Tomorrow. Panic fluttered in my chest. I don't even know what I'm supposed to. I'll brief you this afternoon. He moved toward the door, then paused, looked back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Elena? Yes? You made the right choice. Coming here. How do you know? Because you're still alive. He said it so casually, so matter-of-factly, that it took a moment for the words to register. And out there, working yourself to death for nothing, you weren't. Not really. He left before I could respond. I stood in the middle of the enormous bedroom, in the beautiful glass castle, and felt the weight of what I'd done settle over me. Through the French doors, I could see the garden stretching toward a line of trees. Beautiful, manicured, controlled. A prison made of silk and stone. I walked to the balcony, pushed open the doors, and breathed in the autumn air. It smelled like rain and dying leaves, and something else, something darker, like smoke from a fire I couldn't see. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dinner briefing at 4. Library. Don't be late. CC. I looked at the message for a long time. Then I unpacked my duffel bag and tried to pretend I wasn't terrified. The library smelled like leather and old paper and something sharp whiskey, I realized, watching Christo pour amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. I don't drink on the job, I said from the doorway. You're not on the job yet. He held out a glass. This is orientation. I took it because refusing felt more dangerous than accepting. The whiskey burned going down, warm and smoky. Christo settled into one of the leather chairs, gesturing for me to take the one opposite. A folder sat on the table between us, thick with papers. "Tomorrow's dinner," he began. 8 guests, 4 couples, business associates from New York, who are considering a partnership with one of my legitimate ventures. Legitimate? I couldn't help the skepticism in my voice. His smile was amused. "I own restaurants, Elena. Nightclubs. Real estate. Not everything I do involves broken wrists. Just some things. Just some things," he agreed. He opened the folder, sliding papers toward me. The guest list. Names, preferences, dietary restrictions. Memorize them. I scanned the pages. Detailed profiles, favorite wines, conversation topics to avoid, allergies, even notes about marriages and recent business deals. "You investigate your dinner guests?" "I investigate everyone." He leaned back, watching me over his glass. "Knowledge is power, Elena. The more you know about someone, the better you can anticipate what they need, what they want, what they might do." It should have felt invasive. It should have bothered me. Instead, I found myself fascinated by the thoroughness. The strategy. "What do you need me to do?" I asked. "Coordinate with the caterer, his number is in the folder. The menu's already selected. But confirm timing. Make sure the dining room is set properly. Oversee the service staff." He paused. "And during dinner, you'll be present." Observing. Observing what? Everything. His eyes held mine. Body language. Who talks to whom? Who drinks too much? Who's nervous? You'd be surprised how much people reveal without speaking. "You want me to spy on your guests. I want you to be aware." He set down his glass with a soft click. "These dinners aren't just meals, Elena. They're negotiations, tests. Everyone at that table will be assessing everyone else, looking for weakness, for opportunity. I need someone watching who they won't notice watching. Because I'm just the help. Because you're new." His voice gentled slightly. "You're an unknown variable. That makes you powerful." I took another sip of whiskey, letting the burn center me. What happens if something goes wrong? Define wrong. I don't know. Someone gets angry. Someone threatens someone else. Someone, I gestured vaguely, does something illegal. Christo stood, moving to the window. The afternoon light caught in his hair, turned his profile into something, carved from shadow. If someone gets angry, you stay calm. Anger is noise. It's what people do when they're powerless. He turned back to me. If someone makes threats, you remember every word and tell me later. And if something illegal happens... His smile was cold. Then you weren't there. You didn't see it. You don't remember. My stomach tightened. I said I wouldn't be part of... You won't be. He crossed back to me, and suddenly he was close. Too close. Looking down at me with eyes that were smoke and steel. But you need to understand the rules, Elena. In my world, there are things you see and things you don't see. Things you know and things you don't know. Survival depends on knowing the difference. That sounds like lying. That sounds like staying alive. We stared at each other. I should have looked away. Should have backed down, let him have the dominance his entire existence demanded. Instead I stood. Brought us eye level or close enough, given he still had 3 inches on me. "I won't lie to protect criminals," I said quietly. "Then you'll lie to protect yourself." His voice dropped to something almost intimate. "Because the moment you become a liability, Elena, you become a problem. And I solve problems." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." But his expression softened, just slightly. "I don't want to threaten you. I want you safe. Which means I need you smart." He was so close I could feel the heat of him. Could see the faint stubble along his jaw, the way his pulse beat at his throat. Everything about him radiated control, power, danger. And God help me, I wanted to lean closer. "I should go," I said. "Prepare for tomorrow. Elena." His hand caught my wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop me. His thumb pressed against the inside of my wrist, where my pulse hammered. "You did well today. Coming here, not running." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Good." His thumb moved, a slow circle that made my breath catch. "Fear keeps you careful, but don't let it make you weak." He released me, stepped back. I fled. I spent the evening in my room, memorizing the guest list, calling the caterer, trying to ignore the way my wrist still tingled where Cristo had touched me. At midnight, I heard voices outside, male voices, speaking Italian too fast for me to follow. I moved to the window, careful to stay hidden behind the curtain. Cristo stood in the garden with two men. One I recognized from the restaurant. The other was older, gray-haired, wearing an expensive suit despite the late hour. They were arguing. I could tell from the gestures, the sharp movements. The older man pointed at Cristo, jabbing his finger into the air. Cristo didn't move, didn't react. Then, so fast I almost missed it, he grabbed the older man's wrist, said something low. The older man went pale. The conversation ended. The men left. Cristo stayed in the garden, hands in his pockets, staring at something I couldn't see. From this distance, in the moonlight, he looked almost vulnerable, almost human. Then he turned, and his eyes went straight to my window. I jerked back, heart pounding, knowing it was too late. He'd seen me. My phone buzzed. Curiosity isn't a sin, Elena, but it can be dangerous. Sleep well. CC. I stared at the message until my screen went dark. Then I closed the curtains, climbed into the enormous bed, and didn't sleep at all. The dining room was perfect. White linens, crystal glassware catching candlelight, flowers, white roses again arranged in low centerpieces that wouldn't obstruct conversation. The caterer had arrived an hour early, his team moving through the kitchen like a choreographed dance. I stood in the doorway at 7:30, checking and rechecking my mental list. You look nervous. I spun. Cristo stood behind me, devastating in a navy suit, white shirt open at the collar. His hair was pushed back, and he smelled like expensive cologne and danger. I'm not nervous, I lied. He smiled. Moved past me into the dining room, his fingers brushing my lower back, casual, brief, burning. Everything looks excellent, he said, surveying the space. You did well. Pride bloomed in my chest, warm and unexpected. The guests arrived at 8 precisely. I stood near the entrance with Cristo, playing the role of assistant, observing as he'd instructed, watching as he transformed. With his guests, he was charming, warm, cracking jokes, remembering details about their children, their businesses. The dangerous man from the garden vanished, replaced by someone who seemed almost normal, almost. But I saw the calculation behind his eyes, saw the way he positioned people, guided conversations, created alliances with nothing but words and timing. It was fascinating, terrifying, beautiful. Dinner began. I moved through the evening like a ghost, coordinating the service staff, ensuring wine glasses stayed full, courses arrived on time, but mostly, I watched. The guests were exactly as the profiles described. Marcus Chen, a real estate developer from Manhattan, who drank too much and talked too loudly. His wife Angela, quiet and observant. David and Sophia Romano, an older couple who kept touching each other under the table, new love, or affair. James Fitzgerald, cold and calculating, barely touching his food. His wife Jennifer, brittle and sharp. And two others. Luca Moretti, a man around Cristo's age with eyes like ice. And his date, a redhead whose name I'd already forgotten. Tell me. Cristo, Marcus said, his voice carrying over the table. This partnership you're proposing, how can you guarantee the construction permits won't be held up? Cristo's smile didn't waver. I have relationships with the appropriate city officials. The permits are a formality. Relationships. James Fitzgerald's tone was dry. Is that what we're calling bribes now? The table went quiet. Cristo's expression didn't change. I prefer to think of it as efficient networking. Laughter, but strained. I moved, closer, pretending to check a wine bottle, watching Fitzgerald's face. He was testing Cristo, pushing to see how he'd react. Of course, Cristo continued smoothly. If you'd prefer to go through traditional channels, that's certainly possible. It'll just add 6 months to the timeline. Maybe more. Fitzgerald's jaw tightened. He'd been outmaneuvered, and he knew it. The conversation moved on. But I'd seen the anger in Fitzgerald's eyes, the way his wife touched his arm in warning. Problem, I thought. Remember this. At 10, dessert arrived. Panna cotta with berry compote, delicate and beautiful. Cristo caught my eye across the room, gave an almost imperceptible nod. Approval. My chest warmed. The guests left around midnight, full of wine and promises. Christo saw them out personally, all charm and warmth, then closed the door and turned to me. The charm vanished like smoke. Fitzgerald is going to be a problem, I said before he could speak. Christo's eyebrows rose. Is he? He doesn't trust you, and he's looking for a reason to back out. What makes you say that? He barely ate, drank sparingly, kept watching everyone else, not engaging. I moved into the dining room, started gathering the place cards, and his wife squeezed his arm twice when he started to say something, once during the permit conversation, once when Moretti mentioned the Brooklyn project. She's his conscience, his warning system. Christo leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Go on. Chen is harmless. Drinks too much, wants to be liked. He'll agree to anything that makes him feel important. I stacked plates, my hands steady despite the way Christo's attention made my skin prickle. The Romanos are solid, they already trust you. Whatever history you have there, it's good. And Moretti? I paused. Moretti is dangerous. Why? Because he watches you the way you watch everyone else. I looked up, met Christo's eyes. He's not here as a partner. He's here to assess you, to find weak points. Silence. Then Christo pushed off the doorframe, crossed the room in 3 strides. He stopped inches from me. You, he said softly, are remarkable. My breath caught. You saw all of that in one dinner? You told me to watch. I did. His hand came up, and I thought he might touch my face. Instead, his fingers caught a strand of hair that had escaped my careful bun, tucking it behind my ear. The gesture was gentle, intimate. But most people watch and see nothing. You watched and understood. Is Moretti a problem? Moretti is. He smiled, but it wasn't pleasant. Let's say Moretti and I have a complicated history. He's testing whether I'm still the man I was 5 years ago. Are you? No. The word was quiet. Final. I'm much worse now. His hand was still near my face, not quite touching. I could feel the warmth of his palm, the way the space between us seemed to pulse with electricity. Elena. His voice dropped. You should go to bed. It's late. What about Fitzgerald? I'll handle Fitzgerald. How? His smile was sharp, with efficiency. That should have bothered me, should have sent me running. Instead, I found myself wanting to stay, wanting to know what efficiency meant, what Christo would do, how he'd solve the problem, wanting to be close to the danger instead of away from it. Good night, Christo, I whispered. I left before I could do something stupid, but I felt his eyes on me all the way up the stairs, burning into my back like a brand. In my room, I found a small box on my pillow. Inside was a necklace, delicate gold chain, a small pendant shaped like a key. The note was in Christo's sharp handwriting. For unlocking secrets. You earned this tonight. CC. I held it up to the light, watching it spin, and wondered what doors I'd just been given access to. I wore the necklace to breakfast. Christo noticed immediately, his eyes dropping to where the key rested against my collarbone, and something flickered in his expression. Satisfaction? Possession? Coffee? He offered, already pouring. We'd fallen into an unexpected routine over the past 3 days. Breakfast together in the kitchen, not the formal dining room where Christo would brief me on the day while we ate toast and drank coffee that cost more per pound than I used to make in a week. It felt domestic, dangerous in its normalcy. Fitzgerald pulled out of the deal, Christo said, stirring sugar into his cup. My stomach dropped. Because of the dinner? Because of his conscience. Christo's tone was dry. Apparently his wife convinced him I was too connected to unsavory elements. Are you? Extensively. He smiled over the rim of his cup, but I thought I'd hidden it better. What about the partnership? The Romanos doubled their investment. Chen came in for his original amount plus 20%. Moretti. Christo paused. Moretti is considering. That's not good enough? With Moretti, nothing is ever good enough. He set down his cup, and for a moment, his careful mask slipped. He looked tired, waited. He wants control. Always has. This partnership is just another way for him to try to take it. Don't give it to him. Christo's eyes snapped to mine. Simple as that? You're stronger without him. You don't need his money or his approval. I don't know where the certainty came from, but it was there, solid and sure. He's trying to make you think you do. That's the game. And if I'm wrong, if I do need him, then you were never as powerful as you thought you were. The words hung between us, sharp and challenging. Cristo stared at me. Then he laughed, a real laugh, surprised and genuine. Cristo Catalano, he said, shaking his head. Lectured on power dynamics by his event coordinator. You asked? I did. He stood, moving around the island to where I sat. Close again. Always too close. You're right, you know. About Moretti. About not needing him. So don't give him what he wants. It's not that simple. Why not? His hand came up, fingers brushing the key pendant. The touch sent heat racing down my spine. Because Moretti doesn't just want control of the business, Cristo said quietly. He wants proof I've gone soft, weak, and if he gets that proof, he'll move against you. Smart girl. We were so close. I could see the darker ring around his irises, the faint scar above his eyebrow I'd noticed before. His cologne wrapped around me, making it hard to think. Then don't give him proof, I whispered. Elena. My name in his mouth sounded like a prayer and a curse. You have no idea what you're asking. Then tell me. For a moment I thought he would. Thought he'd open up, let me see past the careful control. Instead, his phone buzzed. He stepped back, checking the screen, and his expression went cold. I have to go. He grabbed his jacket from the chair. There's a situation at the Northside property. What kind of situation? The kind that requires my personal attention. He was already moving toward the door. Stay here. Don't leave the house. Cristo. Elena. He turned back, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. Please. Just this once, don't ask questions. Stay here where it's safe. He left before I could respond. I stayed in the house for exactly 4 hours. Then I called the driver. I need to pick up some things from my apartment, I said when he answered. Personal items. Mr. Catalano said I could leave if I wanted to. I kept my voice firm. I'm not leaving. I'm getting my things. Are you driving me? Or do I call a cab? Silence. Then, I'll be there in 10 minutes. The drive to my apartment felt surreal. After days in Cristo's glass castle, my neighborhood looked smaller, dirtier, more real. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it, cluttered, cramped, smelling like cheap coffee and the Indian restaurant downstairs. I packed quickly. Clothes, photos, my mother's jewelry box. I was in the closet reaching for my winter coat when I heard it. The door opening. Not my door. The apartment next door, where old Mrs. Chen lived with her cats. But the footsteps were wrong. Heavy, male, multiple people. Check everywhere, a voice said. Male. Rough. If she's here, we take her. Boss says alive, but he didn't say undamaged. My blood went ice cold. They weren't at Mrs. Chen's apartment. They were here. I moved on instinct, closing the closet door silently, pressing myself into the back corner behind hanging clothes. My phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out, hands shaking, and texted Cristo. Someone broke into my apartment. They're looking for me. The response was immediate. Where are you, closet? Hiding. Stay hidden. Don't make a sound. I'm coming. Footsteps in my living room now. Drawers opening. Things crashing. She's not here, someone said. Boss said she'd come back for her stuff. We wait. No. Check the bedroom. I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying to silence my breathing. The necklace Cristo had given me felt cold against my skin. The closet door opened. Light spilled in. I could see the silhouette of a man, broad-shouldered, turning slowly. His eyes hadn't adjusted to the darkness yet. He couldn't see me, but he would. In seconds, his hand reached toward the clothes. The front door exploded inward. I heard shouting. Gunshots loud, impossibly loud, making my ears ring. The man in front of the closet spun away. More shots. Screaming. Then silence. Elena. Cristo's voice. Rough. Urgent. I stumbled out of the closet. My apartment was destroyed, furniture overturned, drawers emptied. 2 men on the floor. Not moving. Cristo stood in the doorway, gun in hand, breathing hard. Blood spattered his white shirt. His eyes found mine. Are you hurt? I shook my head. Couldn't speak. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulled me against him. His heart hammered against my cheek, and his arms were steel and safety, and something I'd never felt before. I'm sorry, he said into my hair. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. Who were they? Moretti's men. I pulled back to look at him. Why? Because you're my weakness, he said simply. And he found it. Cristo wouldn't let me go. We stood in my destroyed apartment, his arms locked around me, both of us shaking for different reasons. The two men on the floor, I couldn't look at them. Couldn't think about them. We need to leave, Cristo said finally. Now. He kept me behind him as we moved through the apartment, past the bodies, past the splintered door. His men waited in the hallway. I didn't know when they'd arrived, but there were 4 of them, grim-faced and armed. Clean this up, Cristo ordered. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Nothing ties back to us. What about the neighbors? One of them asked. Pay them. Enough to forget what they saw. It was so casual, so efficient. Like death and cover-ups were just another item on a to-do list. I should have been horrified. I was. But I was also grateful. Grateful Cristo had come. Grateful he'd known exactly what to do. That scared me more than anything. Back at the house, Cristo led me upstairs. Not to my room, to his. I'd never been inside before. It was darker than mine, all deep blues and grays, with windows overlooking the back gardens. A massive bed dominated the space, perfectly made, books on the nightstand, a laptop on the desk. Surprisingly normal for a man who'd just killed 2 people. Sit, he said, guiding me to the edge of the bed. He disappeared into the bathroom. I heard water running. He returned with a warm washcloth and knelt in front of me. Your hands, he said softly. I looked down. They were shaking, covered in drywall dust from where I'd pressed against the closet wall. Cristo cleaned them carefully, his touch gentle in a way that made my throat tight. I'm sorry, he said again. I should have anticipated this. Should have. Protected you better. You did protect me. My voice came out raspy. You came. Not fast enough. His jaw clenched. When I got your text, when I realized, he stopped. Shook his head. I've done a lot of terrible things, Elena. But losing you would have been the worst. The admission hung between us, raw and honest. Cristo. Moretti did this as a message, he continued, still cleaning my hands with careful precision. He's telling me that anyone close to me is fair game, that he can reach them whenever he wants. Then send him a message back. His eyes lifted to mine, gray and stormy and dangerous. What kind of message? The kind that makes him regret touching what's yours. Something flared in Cristo's expression, heat and possession, and something darker. Is that what you are? He asked quietly. Mine? My breath caught. I should have said no. Should have maintained distance, professionalism, self-preservation. I don't know, I whispered. But he seems to think so. Cristo set aside the washcloth. His hands came up to frame my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones. I told you I don't want someone I can control, he said. And I meant it. But Elena, his forehead touched mine. You're making it very hard to keep my distance. Then don't. It was permission and challenge and surrender all at once. Cristo kissed me. Not gentle, not careful. Like he'd been holding back for days and finally couldn't anymore. His mouth was demanding, his hands sliding into my hair, pulling me closer until there was no space between us. I kissed him back just as fiercely, tasting danger and desire and something that felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were wild. This is a mistake, he said. Probably. You should leave. Get as far from me as possible. I know. But you won't. No. I touched his face, traced the scar above his eyebrow. I won't. He kissed me again. Slower this time. Deeper. Until I forgot about the men in my apartment, about Moretti, about everything except the way Cristo's hands felt on my skin. Stay here tonight, he murmured against my mouth. In my room, where I can keep you safe. Okay. Elena. He pulled back just enough to look at me. This thing between us, it's going to get complicated. Dangerous. It already is. It's going to get worse. I don't care. His smile was sad and beautiful. You should. I woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Cristo sat in the chair by the window, already dressed in a black shirt and pants, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Morning, I said, suddenly self-conscious. I was still in yesterday's clothes, rumpled and exhausted. It's 10, he said. I let you sleep. What time did you get up? I didn't. He took a sip of coffee. I had calls to make, plans to adjust. Because of Moretti. Because of Moretti. I sat up, pushing hair out of my face. What are you going to do? What I should have done months ago. He set down his cup and stood. End this. Something in his tone made my stomach clench. Cristo. I'm meeting him tonight. Neutral ground. Just the two of us. He moved to the bed, sat on the edge. It ends tonight, Elena. One way or another. Fear flooded through me. That's a trap. He'll kill you. He'll try. Cristo, please. I can't have you in danger. His hand cupped my face. I can't spend every moment wondering if he's found another way to get to you. This needs to end. Then let me come with you. Absolutely not. I can help. You can stay here, he said firmly. Where my men can protect you. Where I know you're safe. And if you don't come back? His smile was gentle. Then you take the money I've set aside for you and disappear. Start over somewhere far from Boston. Far from all of this. I don't want your money. My voice broke. I want you alive. Elena. He kissed me, soft and bittersweet. If I don't come back, it means I wasn't strong enough to keep you safe anyway. He left while I was still trying to find words to argue. I stayed in his room all day, pacing, checking my phone, watching the sun arc across the sky toward evening. At 8, I heard cars leaving, Cristo's men, heading out. At 9, the house went quiet. At 10, I couldn't take it anymore. I found the driver, told him I needed to go out, and when he refused, I took his keys and ran. I was done waiting, done being protected. If Cristo was walking into danger, I was going with him. The address from Cristo's desk led me to the waterfront, not the tourist area with its restaurants and boats, the industrial section, where warehouses squatted like dark boxes against the night sky. I parked the stolen car 2 blocks away and walked, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. The warehouse Cristo had circled on his map was at the end of the dock. Light spilled from broken windows. I could hear voices inside, muffled and tense. I should have called the police. Should have done anything except what I was doing. Instead, I found a side door, rusted and half open, and slipped inside. The warehouse was cavernous, filled with old shipping containers and coils of rope, shadows everywhere. I moved between them, following the voices toward a lit area in the center, and stopped breathing. Cristo stood in the middle of an open space, hands at his sides, facing Luca Moretti. Between them, 20 feet of concrete floor, and enough tension to choke on. Moretti had 6 men with him. Cristo had 3. Bad odds. You wanted a meeting, Cristo said. His voice carried across the space, calm and cold. Here I am. No, Moretti said. I wanted you to kneel, to beg, to admit you're not the man you used to be. I'm not, Cristo smiled. I'm worse. Worse. You've gone soft. Moretti circled slowly, predator assessing prey, taking in stray girls, playing house. The old Cristo would have killed you. 3 years ago, Cristo interrupted. I let you live because we were friends once. Brothers. But you've mistaken mercy for weakness. Have I? Moretti's smile was sharp. Then where is she, Cristo? Your little weakness. Your sweet Elena. Did you really think leaving her at home would keep her safe? My blood went cold. Cristo's expression didn't change. If you've touched her, I haven't. Yet. Moretti pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, held it up. I couldn't see what was on it from my hiding spot, but I saw Cristo's face go white. That's a live feed, Moretti said. Your house. Right now, I have 3 men there, Cristo. Waiting for my call. 1 word from me, and they go inside. And they won't be gentle. Cristo's hands clenched into fists. This is between us. It became about her when you let her matter. Moretti pocketed his phone. So here's the deal. You kneel. You publicly admit I'm in charge now. You sign over your territory, and I'll call them off. And if I don't, then I make you listen while they kill her. Moretti's smile was vicious. Slowly. The warehouse went silent. Cristo stared at Moretti for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered himself to 1 knee. No, I wanted to scream it. Wanted to run out. To tell him it was a bluff. That I was here. That I was fine. But my body wouldn't move. I was frozen, watching the most powerful man I'd ever known kneel in the dirt. Say it, Moretti demanded. You win, Cristo said quietly. You're in charge. I'll sign whatever Christo! The shout came from one of his men, pointing at the entrance, where I'd just been, except I hadn't moved. Someone else was there. A woman, Christo's housekeeper, Maria, running toward us, her face panicked. "It's a trap!" she screamed. "Elena is gone!" She took. Gunfire exploded. Everything happened at once. Christo dove for cover behind a container. His men returned fire. Moretti's men scattered. And I was running toward the chaos because Christo was in danger and I couldn't just hide. "Elena!" Christo's voice, raw with fear. "Get down!" Something hit me from behind, driving me to the ground. A body heavy, smelling like cigarettes and sweat. One of Moretti's men, pinning me, his hand over my mouth. "Got her!" he shouted. Christo's head snapped around. Our eyes met across the warehouse. The look on his face, rage and terror and something that looked like breaking. He stood up, fully exposed, both hands raised. "Let her go," he said. "Moretti, let her go, and I'll give you whatever you want." "Christo, no." I bit the hand over my mouth, tasting blood. The man cursed, loosening his grip just enough. "He's going to kill you anyway," I screamed. More gunfire. The man holding me jerked, his grip going slack. He fell, and I scrambled away, my hand slipping in something wet. Blood. So much blood. Christo was there suddenly, pulling me up, his hands everywhere, checking for wounds. "Are you hurt, Elena? Are you hurt?" "No." "I'm Christo! Behind you!" He spun, firing without hesitation. The man who'd been raising his gun dropped. We ran. Through the warehouse. Between containers. Christo's hand locked around mine. Behind us, more shots. Shouting. The chaos of a firefight collapsing into something worse. We burst through a door into the cold night air. Christo's car was there. Engine already running, one of his men had pulled it around. "Get in." I dove into the passenger seat. Christo floored it, tires screaming against pavement. Behind us, the warehouse erupted in flame. We drove for 20 minutes in silence. My hands were shaking. My clothes were covered in blood, not mine, the man who'd grabbed me. I couldn't stop seeing Christo's face when he'd thought I was in danger. Couldn't stop hearing the sound of gunfire. "Why did you come?" Christo's voice was rough, raw. "I told you to stay. Because you were walking into a trap. That was my choice. And it was my choice to follow." I turned to face him. "You don't get to make unilateral decisions about dying for me, Christo. You don't get to. He would have killed you." His hands were white-knuckled on the wheel. "If I hadn't knelt, if I hadn't surrendered, Moretti would have. It was a bluff. He didn't have anyone at your house. Maria came to tell you I'd left, remember?" Christo's jaw clenched. "I couldn't risk it." "So you risked yourself instead?" "Yes." He pulled over suddenly, tires skidding. We were on some side road, trees black against the sky. "Yes, Elena, I risked myself. Because losing you would destroy me in ways Moretti never could." The confession hung between us, raw and desperate. I unbuckled my seatbelt, climbed across the console into his lap, ignoring the gear shift digging into my leg. "You can't die for me," I whispered, framing his face with my bloody hands. "You can't leave me in a world where you don't exist." "Elena," I kissed him, hard and claiming and desperate, tasting fear and smoke and something that tasted like survival. He kissed me back like he was drowning, his hands in my hair, on my back, everywhere. "Take me home," I said against his mouth. "Take me home and don't let go." "Never," he promised. The house was different when we returned. Armed guards at every entrance. Security cameras installed overnight. Christo's men stationed throughout the property like silent sentries. "This is temporary," Christo said, seeing my expression. "Until I know Moretti's dealt with." "Is he?" The warehouse fire was significant. His tone was carefully neutral. He lost men, resources. His credibility with the other families took a hit. But he's alive. For now. We climbed the stairs together. Neither of us had showered, changed, addressed the blood on our clothes, or the way we'd barely let go of each other since the warehouse. At the top of the stairs, Christo paused. "Your room or mine?" "Yours." I didn't hesitate. Inside, he locked the door, pulled the curtains, created a cocoon of safety and shadow. Then he turned to me, and his carefully maintained control cracked. "You could have died tonight," he said. Voice breaking. "When that man grabbed you, when I saw you on the ground, I didn't." But you could have. He crossed to me in 2 strides, hands cupping my face with desperate gentleness. Elena, you have to understand. I've lost everything before. Family, friends, people I loved. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But losing you would end me. Then don't lose me. I covered his hands with mine. Keep me. Let me stay. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. I turned my face, pressed a kiss to his palm. I'm asking for this. For you. For whatever dangerous, complicated thing this is between us. It'll get worse before it gets better. I don't care. Elena. Christo. I stepped closer, eliminating the last space between us. I'm not leaving. Not because of danger, or Moretti, or whatever else comes. I'm staying. Because I took a breath. Because I'm falling in love with you. His eyes closed. Don't. Too late. I'm not a good man. I don't want a good man. My hand slid up his chest, feeling his heartbeat rapid, unsteady. I want you. He kissed me then. Not the desperate kisses from the car, but something slower, deeper, like he was memorizing the taste of me. His hands moved to my shirt, hesitating at the buttons. Yes, I whispered. He undressed me carefully, reverently, his eyes never leaving mine. When I stood before him in just my underwear, his breath caught. You're beautiful. His voice was rough. So beautiful it hurts to look at you. Then don't just look. I undressed him with shaking hands. The white shirt, stained with blood and smoke. The pants, revealing skin and muscle and the evidence of a violent life scars I'd never seen. Marks I wanted to learn the story of. He lifted me, carried me to the bed, laid me down like I was something precious. Last chance, he murmured, hovering over me. Once this happens, Elena, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. I'm already yours. I pulled him down. Show me. What happened next was slow and intense, and nothing like the rough urgency I'd expected. Christo touched me like he was learning a language, patient and thorough, paying attention to every sound I made, every place that made me gasp. When he finally moved inside me, his eyes locked on mine. I felt something shift. Not just physical, though that was overwhelming, but emotional. Like puzzle pieces clicking into place. I love you, he said against my mouth. God help me, Elena. I love you. I love you too. We moved together, finding rhythm, building heat until the world narrowed to just this. His breath on my neck, my hands in his hair, the feeling of being completely, utterly known. After, we lay tangled together, sweaty and boneless and safe. What happens now? I asked, tracing patterns on his chest. Now? He pressed a kiss to my hair. Now I rebuild. Shore up alliances. Make it clear what happens to anyone who threatens you. And Moretti? Moretti made his choice when he put you in danger. His voice went cold. I gave him mercy once. I won't make that mistake again. I should have argued. Should have tried to talk him out of violence, revenge, whatever he was planning. But I remembered the warehouse, remembered the man's hands on me, the fear in Christo's eyes. Be careful, I whispered instead. Always. He tightened his arms around me. I have too much to lose now. I woke to an empty bed and a note on the pillow. Emergency meeting. Back by noon. Stay inside. I love you. See, the I love you was underlined 3 times. I smiled, pressing the note to my chest, then got up to shower. The hot water felt like baptism, washing away the last of the blood and fear. I dressed in clothes from the closet Christo had filled for me, soft jeans, a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my old monthly rent. Downstairs, Maria had made breakfast. She gave me a knowing look but said nothing, just poured coffee and set out pastries. I was reaching for my second cup when I heard it, shouting outside, the sound of cars, doors slamming. Maria's face went pale. Get upstairs. Now. What's happening? Miss Elena, please. The front door burst open. Christo stumbled in, supported by 2 of his men. Blood soaked his shirt fresh, bright red, spreading. Oh, God. I ran to him, my hands hovering, not knowing where to touch. Christo, I'm okay. He smiled, but it was strained. Just a scratch. That's not a scratch. Moretti didn't go quietly. He winced as his men lowered him onto the couch. But he's gone now, permanently. You're bleeding. Elena. He caught my hand. It looks worse than it is. The bullet went through. Clean. You were shot. My voice was too loud, too panicked. You were shot and you're acting like it's nothing. Because I'm alive. He pulled me down, to sit beside him, ignoring the way it made him wince. I'm alive and I'm here and Moretti will never threaten you again. I wanted to be angry, wanted to yell at him for being reckless, for scaring me, for treating his life like it didn't matter. Instead, I kissed him, careful of his injuries, but fierce in my relief. Don't ever scare me like that again, I whispered against his mouth. I'll try. He smiled. No promises though, Cristo. I love you, Elena Rossi, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you're safe. That's a promise I can keep. The doctor came and went, stitching Cristo's side while I held his hand and tried not to think about how close the bullet had come to vital organs. Clean wound, the doctor said, packing his bag. He'll heal fine. Keep it dry. Change the bandage daily. Watch for infection. After he left, I helped Cristo upstairs. He moved slowly, carefully, but refused to show pain. I'm fine, he kept saying. You're stubborn. I corrected. In his bedroom, our bedroom now. That shift had happened without discussion. I made him lie down while I gathered supplies. Clean bandages, pain medication, water. You don't have to fuss, he said, but his eyes were warm as he watched me move around the room. I'm not fussing. I'm making sure you don't die from infection after surviving a gunfight. It was hardly a fight. He shifted, wincing slightly. Moretti was already weak. Tonight was just finishing what needed to be done. I sat on the edge of the bed. Tell me what happened. He was quiet for a moment, his hand finding mine. We met at his warehouse, he said finally. Neutral ground. Or supposed to be. He brought 10 men. I brought 5. His smile was grim. Turns out 3 of his men were on my payroll. Had been for months. You planned this. I've been planning this since he first threatened you. His thumb stroked over my knuckles. I just needed him to make the first move, to give me justification in front of the other families. And the shooting? One of his loyal men. Got a shot off before my people took him down. He touched his side gingerly. Could have been worse. Cristo. I leaned down, pressed my forehead to his. What if it had been worse? What if I didn't? He kissed me softly. I'm here. We're safe. That's what matters. For how long? What do you mean? How long until the next threat? I pulled back to look at him. The next Moretti. The next crisis. How long do we have before something else tries to destroy this? Cristo's expression gentled. Elena, there will always be threats. That's the reality of my world. He cupped my face. But I'm done making unilateral decisions. Done trying to protect you by keeping you separate from the dangerous parts of my life. You've proven you're stronger than that. So, what are you saying? I'm saying, he took a breath. I'm saying I want you by my side. Not as someone I protect, but as my partner. My equal. My heart stuttered. Partner? The families are gathering next week. A summit. To reorganize territory now that Moretti's gone. His eyes held mine. I want you there. Not as my event coordinator. As my partner. Someone they know has my trust. My respect. That's... I struggled for words. That's a huge risk. For you. They'll see it as weakness, bringing in an outsider. Let them try. His smile was sharp. You've already proven yourself more capable than half the men in this business. And the ones smart enough to see that will fall in line. The ones who aren't, he shrugged. I'll deal with them. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. He sat up, ignoring the way it made him wince, and took both my hands in his. Elena, I know this isn't the life you planned. I know I'm asking you to enter a world that's dangerous and complicated and often dark, but I'm also promising you that I will spend every day earning your trust, your love, your partnership. You already have those things. Then marry me. The words hung in the air between us. I stared at him. What? Marry me. He said it like it was simple, like he hadn't just proposed in the middle of a conversation about organized crime and territory disputes. Not because I need to possess you, or control you, or any of the toxic reasons, but because I love you. Because I want to build something with you. Because life without you is just existence. Cristo, you don't have to answer now. He pressed a kiss to my knuckles. Take time. Think about it. But know that I mean it. Every word. I looked at him, this dangerous, complicated, surprisingly gentle man who'd somehow become my entire world. I don't need time, I said. His eyes widened. Yes, I continued. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll be your partner, your equal, your wife. I'll stand by your side in summit meetings and at the dinner table and everywhere in between. Elena. But, I interrupted, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll value your life as much as you value mine. I touched his face, tracing the scar I'd come to love. Promise me you won't throw yourself in front of every bullet meant for me. That we protect each other. Not just you protecting me. That's a hard promise to make, he admitted. My instinct will always be to keep you safe, even at my own expense. Then learn new instincts. I kissed him softly. Because I can't build a life with you if you're constantly trying to die for me. He laughed a real laugh, surprised and genuine. You drive a hard bargain, Elena Rossi. I learned from the best. He pulled me down beside him, careful of his injury, and held me close. 3 months ago, I thought I knew what my life was. What it would always be. And then you walked into Salvatore's and challenged me over grout stains. Technically, I challenged you over murder. Semantics. His hand stroked through my hair. The point is, you changed everything. Made me remember that there's more to life than territory and power and revenge. Made me want something better. You gave me that too, I admitted. A life that's not just survival. A purpose beyond the next shift, the next bill. You gave me possibility. So we're both hopelessly compromised. Completely. We lay together in comfortable silence, listening to the house settle around us. Outside, guards patrolled. Security cameras watched, the visible evidence of a dangerous life. But in this room, in this moment, there was just us. Just the quiet aftermath of choosing each other despite everything. The summit next week, I said eventually. What should I wear? Something that says, don't underestimate me. He smiled against my hair. Though honestly, you could show up in jeans and terrify half of them with just your confidence. Flattery. Truth. He tilted my face up to kiss me. You're extraordinary, Elena. They just don't know it yet. Then I guess we have a week to make. Sure, I'm ready to prove it. We have more than a week. His eyes were serious now. Loving. We have the rest of our lives. And for the first time since I'd walked into his world, I believed it. Believed in the possibility of building something lasting from danger and desire. Believed in us. I love you, Cristo Catalano, I whispered. I love you too, Elena. He pulled me closer. My brave, beautiful disaster of a partner. Outside, night fell over Boston. But inside our glass castle, dawn was just beginning.